Christian home and attended church his whole life. In his earlier years, his family lived in Compton, and Reggie attended a Pentecostal church. One of the older neighbor boys was the late, great Celtic Dennis Johnson, who also happened to be the neighborhood bully and would beat Reggie up. I don't know how Sean let that happen, though, right? The family then moved out of Compton and moved out to the Inland Empire, Ontario, where Reggie was a track and field star in high school. Hope I'm not exaggerating that too much. But in track and field, his primary event was the hammer throw. And upon graduating, Reggie's church youth director encouraged him to go to a Christian college, and specifically to attend the Biblical Institute of Los Angeles, also known as Biola. So Reggie did enroll at Biola, where he had the opportunity to compete collegiately in the hammer throw on Biola's track and field team. He also became involved in leadership at Biola as he was elected to the student government. And while at Biola, Reggie began developing an inkling for a calling to the ministry. As a student, Reggie was required to complete 2 different internships. And so his first internship was at a boys' home, which is kind of a facility for at-risk youth, for boys who are kind of wards of the court. And Reggie really enjoyed this work. And so he envisioned that, perhaps his ministry calling in the future would be working for some sort of faith-based nonprofit. He had no desire at that time to work for a church or be in youth ministry. Well, the Lord works in mysterious ways. In order to graduate, Reggie needed to complete a second internship. And he had a Biola friend named Dave Lyle, who was the new high school youth director at Trinity United Presbyterian Church in Santa Ana. And Dave told Reggie, well, why don't you come on over? You can complete your internship volunteering as a youth leader at the church. And as Reggie told me, he's like, hey, great, easy money, Come over, skate through the summer, internship checked off, I'm done. God, however, had other plans. I had grown up at Trinity in Santa Ana, and I was part of a band of similar boys who had grown up in the church, but who really were kind of one step removed from being juvenile delinquents. Oh, sorry, Reverend Dr. Moffat. We would ditch church, Sunday school, take our offering money, go down the street, play video games, buy some junk food. Oh, we'd sneak into the area of the church where the old folks would gather afterwards, have some coffee and donuts, and switch out the sugar for the salt and the sugar shaker. Yeah, I'm confessing. Confession session. We were bad. Okay? Yes, we were. To keep us under control, the summer camp before my 8th grade year, the year before I met Reggie, unbeknownst to us, the church had assigned a senior assistant pastor to be our camp counselor. I remember how we had just arrived and all of us were sitting on the floor of our cabin in a circle with our soda cans and junk food and our playing cards. We had a whole gambling ring going on. And that's when our new camp counselor, the assistant senior pastor, Gary Watkins, I don't remember him, walked in and caught us red-handed. Boys, his voice boomed out, what in the heck is going on here? Well, they got the best of us on that one, and their little ruse worked, and he kept us on a short leash that summer camp. And so the summer of 1982 came around, and our band of mischievous troublemakers transitioned on into Trinity's high school youth department. We wondered, oh, ho, hum, who's going to be our youth leaders this time around? Well, as divine fate would have it, that Sunday just so happened to be the first Sunday of Reggie's internship. I can still remember it vividly. To introduce Reggie, to the high school youth group, Dave Lyle was the director, and Reggie came up with a little skit. They were going to introduce Reggie as a power lifter, okay? So, and he was much more muscular physique at that time. Still throwing the hammer at Biola at that time. At any rate, they had like this barbell up on stage, these weights. Reggie ran in, did a full clean and jerk with a bar up to his shoulders, and then hoisted it over his head. And we went wild. It was amazing. I had never seen a Sunday school teacher do something like that before. We were hooked. So a couple weeks later, it was time to go off to summer camp again. And we were milling about the buses and wondering who was going to be our camp counselor this year. And not content to have a repeat of the previous year, I snuck into the office of the high school youth director, and I found the clipboards with the counselors and their list on them, and I'll just confess now in front of this honorable body, I did switch the list that was under Reggie's name and put my groups under his name, so he'd be our counselor. Oh, yes. So that summer camp, that turned out to be the best one ever. Not because of the numerous blue flames that flashed out in the middle of the night when we lit our farts on fire. No. And not because of the other various hijinks we pulled, the details of which have been lost to the ravages of time. Although I do still distinctly remember being sent to do corral duty as punishment. And for the uninitiated, corral duty is where you get sent to shovel horse manure as punishment for your camp sins, okay? No, this summer camp, it was the greatest ever because it marked the beginning of a radical shift for all of us. Reggie Avant had come into our lives, and through his devotion and love throughout the next 4 years, all of our lives would be changed. What was it and what is it that makes Reggie so special? Youth work and ministry, it isn't necessarily rocket science, but it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, and love. So as I describe some of the characteristics that made Reggie a great youth leader, think about what are some of the characteristics that make a great pastor as well. So what was it? First of all, Reggie led us in Bible studies. He tried to connect the Bible in special ways that were important to us, that would kind of connect to our lives in a real way. I still remember you doing a series, if you can believe this or not, I still remember over 40 years ago, you doing a series on trying to kind of connect sports and the Bible, and 1 Corinthians 9 with Paul and running a race so that you would win. So relevant Bible study. Reggie would also show an interest in us as individuals. Speaking of sports, I remember all of us in his youth group, we'd be all competing in our various sports on a Friday night, attending multiple high schools. I'd be out on the basketball court, and I'd look up in the stands, and there's Reggie's face would be. He'd smile at me and kind of let me know he was proud of me, and I felt so special to have someone come by and take an interest in me. The odd thing is, when we would all talk later at church, everybody else had the exact same experience. And as it was, Reggie, this is how he would spend his Friday nights. He would hop from high school to high school, 10 minutes at a time, going to everybody's game. I still remember that, and I appreciate that. So you made everybody feel special. You took the time to do that. Reggie would call us all on a weekly basis, check in with us on our quiet times, how our devotional life with God was going on. He'd also pray with us over the phone. Reggie would take time to spend one-on-one time with us. Additionally, it might be something as simple as going out for a hamburger together, where we would get a chance to talk about life, our struggles, our dreams, our relationship with God. I think one of Reggie's greatest strengths is his innate counseling ability. He listens without judgment. He lets you know he cares deeply about you. He has a knack for being able to look deep inside of you to see the real you and to affirm and love who you really are. In closing, from a personal standpoint, after I went to college, I went on to form my own nonprofit organization where I run a series of inner city high schools in LA and in Compton, not too far from where I used to live. Reg, the model that you set for me and modeled for me every day when I'm pouring my life into kids and listening to them and being patient and being devoted to them and loving them, little do they know, but what they're seeing through me is really a reflection of you. So Reggie, every time we would finish a little meeting at a hamburger stand, or you call me on the phone, whether it be 40 years ago or last week, you would always end by telling me that you love me. And I just want to let you know that I love you too. Thank you, Reggie.